Hello, this is Leading the Way at Leonard's Express, and I'm your host, Dwayne Nepper. Today, we're talking about a topic that's near and dear to our hearts, changing age requirements for the Cdla license, which you need if you want to drive a Class 8 truck. Now, the New York State will now allow 18-year-olds to get their Cdla. And currently, you need to be 21 to be eligible for a CDL license. It's one way lawmakers are trying to address a shortage in truck drivers, which we know is one of the biggest factors in contributing to the country's supply chain crisis. Now, Leonard's Express CEO Ken Johnson has advocated for this, so we are grateful to have Ken as our guest on today's show.
Good to be back again, Dwayne. Thank you.
Now, also joining us today is Sam Boncaro, the general manager of the Canandaigua Driving School. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dwayne. Thanks for having me.
Now, the Canandaigua Driving School is owned and operated by Ken Johnson and his siblings, who, in addition to Leonard's Express, also is Johnson's Equipment, a tractor trailer, which is a repair shop and a collision shop as well.
Right.
The American Trucking Association estimated that the shortage hit a historic high of just over 80,000 drivers last year. That's about a 30% increase over the prior year, and the worst shortage we've ever seen. What's causing this incredible shortage?
Well, the industry has faced a shortage since back in the 90s, but last year, and started in 2020, we started seeing more drivers leave the industry driven by the fears caused by the pandemic, especially amongst older drivers that maybe were already close to retirement age. They went ahead and retired early, just to avoid, putting themselves and their families in a situation where, especially during the early stages of COVID, where there were so many unknowns, they just wanted to avoid situations where they could possibly get it themselves or bring it home to their family. But some of the other factors, the demand on the trucking industry, over the last couple of years has been quite high. The need for our services has been high. So that kind of changes the trajectory of how many drivers we needed simply by, the growth the industry has seen, and needs for our services. And some of the drivers, that left, in addition to the pandemic, we've seen some leave because of the quality of life. There was a lot of other options, and as well as, our drivers are quite highly regulated. So, that also plays a role in the drivers deciding to look for other opportunities. So, it's a situation that, we've been dealing with for a while. That's just been made worse over the last couple of years. Dwayne, you're muted.
Wouldn't do. We'll keep it going. I was muted there. Thanks, Ken. I was saying that in a recent New York Times article, this is a writer, Peter Goodman, makes the argument that the real reason for the driver shortage is that it's a job filled with stress, physical deprivation, and loneliness. That's not exactly a marketing promo for a business like Leonard's Express and the Canandaigua Driving School, which are always recruiting for drivers. So, Sam, what are your thoughts on this article?
Well, I don't think it's as simple as that. I mean, there's many reasons. Ken mentioned it started back in the 90s. It actually started back in the 80s when they deregulated the industry. Excuse me. Those stereotypes are true. I mean, they're always associated with the trucking. It's true. You could go back at any point in history and the same stereotypes would be true. So, at the school, we don't try to hide from them. We stress to the new students, these are true, and this job may not be for everyone, but then again, being a welder or a nurse isn't for everyone. So, today's truck driver, what he's going through doesn't compare to even 20, even 10 years ago, what a driver had to deal with. So, nowadays, carriers are doing their best to combat these old preconceived notions. Pay has increased dramatically, home time has increased dramatically. Carriers are often ride-along programs where, your spouse or your kids can ride with you. I've even seen satellite televisions, things like that being offered. So basically they're trying to make as many comforts of home as possible on the road. It's not a dirty, greasy job like you might see in a movie from the 70s or 80s, but it's changed quite a bit. It's still trying to fight off those old stereotypes, but nowadays the biggest perk and what's attracting a lot of people is job security. If you can be a safe driver and you're on time, you'll have a job for life.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to agree with some of the points of the article. I think that the article, focuses too much on the negatives and doesn't, really address, some of the positives. Our jobs, our driving jobs are family raising wages with good, solid benefits. And that's just not a Leonard's. You have to be competitive in this industry to attract the quality of individuals we're looking for. And we're needed. As Sam said, that our industry is needed. It's going to be in demand. Good times, bad. People need food on their table and clothes on their back. And everything comes by truck. So yeah, there's some things that are challenging within our industry that we need to continue to address. We talked a little bit in the last episode about some of the services for mental health that we provide, and and there's cases where that's appropriate. But also I think it's our job, and one of the reasons Leonard's was one of the 2022 best fleets to drive for was because we are aware of those challenges, and we go out of our way with the training of our non-drivers to try to take away as many of the stresses of the job as we possibly can and make their lives as easy as possible. Now, we can't deal with traffic. We don't have any control over that. There's things that are outside of our areas of influence, but if we can reduce the things that we can control and make the job easier, whether it's better pay or more home time or better equipment or features in the truck, like Sam mentioned, we have satellite radio for our, all our drivers if they choose to use it. So, we try to make the best of it. And I think we've done a pretty good job, both as a company and as an industry.
Sam, what are you seeing at the Canandaigua Driving School? How has the clientele changed over the years?
In the last couple of years, the biggest change, well, there's been two different areas. The first one being the number of applicants that we now get listing their reason to get a CDL as career change. In the past, most of the students would either be going through like a state program, like a workforce development. They're out of work, they're looking to do something, or they may have had family in the industries. They got some kind of secondhand knowledge of it. But lately, it seems like we're talking to a lot of people who are in retail, some other service type of job. And frankly, during the pandemic, they either had their hours cut back, they're stuck at home, or their jobs were eliminated altogether. So, they're taking a look at the trucking industry now as a stable job, good pay, perks, chance to see the country type of thing. People are starting to act on it. So,
yeah, there's certainly some of those employment opportunities where you get an opportunity to work on a one-on-one basis. You're alone, isolated. You're not in larger group. That's probably more attractive, or what makes the trucking industry a little bit more attractive in that regards. Ken, you help New York State lawmakers craft a new law which allows drivers 18 to 20 years old to drive tractor trailers, but only within the state lines. It also requires that candidates in that age range to go through a more rigorous training program than older drivers. Can you tell us about your experience advocating for this change?
Sure. I've been the chairman of the Trucking Association of New York's Government Affairs Committee for several years. And over the last couple of years, because of the driver shortage, we've been talking with lawmakers about adding New York to the number of states that allow 18 to 20-year-olds to have their commercial driver's license. The reason it's only allowed within the state lines is federal law does not allow interstate for anyone under 21, although there is a pilot program in the current highway funding bill. But New York was one of the few states that didn't allow it intra-state. And, we felt that put us at a disadvantage as a state, in being able to bring young people into our industry. And, our timing was pretty good. There was probably a time several years ago we tried to push this initiative. We may have met with more resistance from both opposition, people opposed to it, as well as within the legislature. But because of the supply chain issues, because of some of the job issues caused by the pandemic, we were able to have some reasonable conversations and put together a draft of the bill that, the legislatures found, acceptable, and they voted on it and passed, and it was later signed into law by Governor Hochul. Also, the DMV was tasked within the bill of filling in some of the details of the regulation. So, we had to wait for that to happen. So, there was, although it was signed last year in 2021 by the governor, it just recently became, the law of New York State.
Sam, the technology that students have access to at the Canandaigua Driving School is state of the art. Can you describe the simulator and some of the other high-tech tools that you're using there?
Yeah, actually the simulator has been very exciting. It's a Virage VS600M. It's a state-of-the-art. The company's name, company is Virage Simulation out of Montreal. And it's actually just like you're sitting in a truck. It's made with real truck parts, right from the seat to the steering wheel to the gear shift, the pedals. I mean, it can be programmed in a multitude of different vehicles, a dump truck to a school bus to a tractor trailer. You get a 360-degree view, counting the rear view mirrors, a 360-degree view as if you're sitting in the truck. We can program it for city, highway, mountains. We can pretty much, you could pick any weather condition. We could plug it in and run a truck through any kind of weather. The new students, we like to start them out on. It gives them a nice full experience of what it's like. They're relaxed. They're not afraid of hurting the equipment or hurting somebody. And I think that when they're relaxed like that, they learn a lot quicker, and they could take that right outside and they're, ready for when they sit in the actual truck. And to be honest with you, we're grateful for it too. We saved a lot of money on maintenance costs. They're much, you can't hurt the simulator. You can easily hurt a truck and cost thousands of dollars with the damage. So another thing that we're very happy and proud of is that we actually get to train on brand new equipment. We've got a brand new 2022 Freightliner for the students to use. And, if you know anything about trucking schools, that's virtually unheard of. Those, most of the time, other schools are using trucks donated from, maybe companies that are 10 or 15 years old. And, they've got all the problems that you would imagine a 10 or 15-year-old truck would have. So to be able to have a student come in and sit in a brand new truck with all the modern features, it goes a long way to showing them what modern trucking, can be. And again, referring back to the stereotypes, you can do away with a lot of those stereotypes by sitting in a truck. Costs a couple $100,000, and their first day they're getting the experience of it. So we're very happy with that.
Ken, I think I've always been ambitious, and I remember my first start into the workforce was I was looking to be a newspaper delivery boy. And I think I was 10 and a half years old. I had to put the half years old in there because I think I had to be 11 years old to be able to do it. And my father went to bat for me. He seemed to know the person at the newspaper, and they let me go ahead and do it at 10 and a half as opposed to 11. But honestly, Ken, not everyone is happy about the age restrictions changing. So how do you respond to objections from the Truck Safety Coalition, which has members who have voiced concern about the new law making the roads less safe?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, first off, in New York State, it was one of the only states that didn't allow 18 to 20-year-olds to drive. I don't think it's there's a lot of individuals in that age bracket that are currently driving in other states, but it does happen, especially in some of the more rural states, and the farming communities especially. But people age, or more specifically, mature at different rates. I've seen 30-year-olds that were less mature than some 18-year-olds, and and each individual is different. Each individual have a different upbringing, and different background, and so I think to paint all 18 to 20-year-olds with the same brush is wrong. In addition, I got my license when I was 18 years old, and so maybe I'm a little biased towards being able to do that successfully. I made my first trip to California within a couple weeks of getting my license. I was a team driver, so I certainly wasn't turned loose on my own. But I used driving as a way to earn some money over the summer vacations going to school. My dad, had KJ Transportation at the time, and if anyone that knew my dad and that's watching this knows that he wasn't going to let us sit home, and then during our vacation. So driving was fun to me. I still consider driving enjoyable. But I think there's younger people that are going to do well at it, and I think there's others that are going to struggle to learn. But I think that's true of any age bracket. There's just different maturity levels for certain individuals.
So Ken, what's next? The law officially goes into effect when? Later this year, right?
Well, it actually went into effect May 14th. As of May 14th, we were able to start, helping young drivers, acquire their CDL.
Right. Before we close out this segment, Sam, where can these newly eligible younger drivers find information about going to driving school?
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here today. We've got a short video that we can run. It's got all our contact information, phone numbers, websites. Take a look at it, and please give us a call. We'd love to answer any questions. Leonard's is looking for drivers, young, old, male, female, it doesn't matter. So now is a great time to call.
Canada Driving School, it's basically a full-service school. Our goal is always to provide the knowledge to become a safe and confident driver.
We teach people how to drive trucks, and we can take people from ground zero to having a license in 5 to 6 weeks.
What we're most known for is our Class A and B CDL courses. They'll learn everything right from the very beginning of sitting in a truck right through to taking the road test. Everything is included. And at the end, they'll have their commercial driver's license.
All of our instructors are all very experienced people, and we could teach people in a way that's safe with the simulator. I don't know of any other school in the area that has one.
We have a 95% completion rate, and those students, they will have multiple job offers before they ever complete the class. It's a great time to get your license. There's always going to be somebody looking for a well-trained, skillful driver. Now's the time to do that.
And now let's shift gears and talk a few minutes about the latest trucking industry news. Ken, what are some of the top stories on your dashboard this week?
Well, Dwayne, I thought this week it might be appropriate to talk about an issue that is not necessarily specific to trucking, and that's the price of both diesel and gasoline. I think everybody is feeling the impact of it, and the prices continue to climb. It was as we were talking earlier. New York is one of the states that put in a tax holiday that went into effect June 1st. I needed gas before June, so I filled up my truck, and by the time I needed it in June, the taxes that were taken out were overtaken by the price increase. So the price is actually higher now than it was the day they put the tax holiday in place. But from a trucking perspective, our fuel is contracted, so we're other than running empty or the driving school, as we just talked with Sam about this, the cost of diesel has an impact on the cost to operate the driving school. But the the prices have climbed quite rapidly. I can give you some current statistics as of this week. The national average for diesel is $5.70 a gallon, but on the East Coast it's over $5.90, and on the West Coast it's $6.44, specifically in California, and that's up over $2.40 in the last year. So that's a big increase in. We're, as an industry, are passing those costs on to our customers, who in turn are passing it on to their customers. So you take that into context and add in the fact that now, as of today, over 16 states have an average price of gasoline over $5 per gallon, and the national average is $4.87. So last year at this time it was just over $3 at $3.05. So that just adds to the inflation that everybody's feeling. And if everyone has a limited number of dollars that they can spend from their paycheck every week, and it varies depending on the individual, but you're spending more on gas, you're spending more on groceries, you're going to spend less elsewhere. So that means there's going to be less things for us to haul because people aren't buying as much. So it's a big impact on the overall economy, and specifically to the trucking industry.
I remember a time in the 80s where I don't know why I always had a fascination with service stations. There were a lot more full service and whatnot. But I remember as a kid the massive lines because there was a fuel shortage then, and you could only fill your tank up on based off of the even or odd number on your license plates. And I think during this particular fuel shortage crisis, we were seeing, I was getting the notices that you can only get certain there may be some shortages on the East Coast. I guess this is all related then, Ken.
Yeah, the fuel, specifically crude oil, but also gasoline futures and diesel futures, they're a market commodity. You can buy and sell futures, on the market, just, like you buy stocks or, other commodities. So the prices go up based off, economics 101, supply and demand. It's more of a perceived supply and demand when you're looking at markets, because they're trying to look forward. But the anticipation is that there may be some shortages, for different diesels and gasolines in different markets this summer. And, there's been, some reports of certain areas having some shortages already. We've worked with our suppliers to make sure that we have plenty and access to plenty, but that doesn't mean that we won't run into challenges, whether it's not being able to fill up completely or, having to go a little further down the road. So we've got, people internally that are keeping track of that and trying to, make sure if we see anything concerning that we reach out to our drivers. But yeah, it's a big concern, just in operating a company, but also, what does the future look like? What are our challenges going to be? We thought the pandemic was bad, but some of these things may turn out to be even more concerning as we go forward.
Yeah, even coming to work today, I have the privilege of being in a tri-state area, and so I find myself watching fuel prices and see what state I'm going to be in today. If I can just cross the border into this state or that state, and who's got the cheapest gas. They're always competing in that regard. So do you have anything else, Ken, on the
you talk about people changing their habits, and you're shopping for better prices. I think we all try to do a little bit of that, but I also have noticed I don't have a long commute, and I don't live in a large heavily populated area, but it seems to be a little more challenging getting to work, simply because it looks like people are maybe driving a little bit slower, just trying to improve their fuel mileage. And of course, we're always asking our drivers to look for opportunities, whether it's driving slower or reducing the idle, or several other ways to improve our fuel economy. Obviously, fuel is one of our largest expenses. So yeah, it's I think we're all looking for ways to minimize the impact of this on ourselves, as well as a lot of us at Leonard's, on our company, and that goes for Canada Driving School as well.
Absolutely. Did you have anything else, Ken, on the dashboard that you want to bring up?
No, I think that's it for today. It's concerning enough.
Yes.
Yeah, I always keep track of the industry news, and it seems lately it's it's been mostly about fuel and how to deal with fuel. So I thought it was appropriate to talk about that this week, and appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Well, thanks again for sharing with us, Ken. Again, we're speaking with our CEO, Ken Johnson. Thanks again for being with us.
Good to be here.
That's all. Yeah, that's all for this edition of Leading the Way at Leonard's. If you have any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you at leadingtheway@leonardsexpress.com. That's leading the way, all one word, at leonardsexpress.com. I'm your host, Dwayne Nepper. Until next time, keep on trucking.
We're running 18 wheels down that open highway. We drive on through the night so you can have it your way. We're the angels of the highway, bringing hope across this land. Success through service, it's all part of the plan. We're settled for nothing less. We're Leonard's Express.